is Phumlani M. Majosi, the author of a new book, Lessons from Past Heroes, and a dude from KwaZulu-Natal. Yes, that's where I'm from. I am from KwaZulu-Natal. It's too good to be back to be talking to you about the affairs of the world. We are going to look at two issues today. The first one is, of course, the BRICS summit that is taking place in Kazan, Russia. And the second story I want to talk to you about is, of course, the government of national unity. Where are we 100 days after this government has been formed? My thoughts I'm going to share with you about that. Remember to follow me on X at Phumlani M. Majosi. Do subscribe to this channel, to this show at Majosi Show, and get engaged. Follow us as we tackle the issues that matter. I'm also on Facebook, Phumlani M. Majosi. I do have a Facebook page there. I do TikTok as well. I do post my video content there. At Phumlani M. Majosi, the BRICS Summit. It's going to be a very important summit for Mr. Putin, right? Because remember, he's being sanctioned by Western nations, and heavily so. So for him, the BRICS summit, it's a very big event, folks. He wants to show to the world, to Western nations, that look, I'm not alone. You thought I was a pariah. No, I am not. You thought I don't have partners. No, I do have partners. You thought there are nations that don't want to work with my Russia. In fact, no, there are nations that are willing to work with us as a people of Russia. That is what Mr. Putin wants to show with this BRICS summit that is taking place in his country this week. Our president, Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is attending the conference along with other leaders as well. Remember, it is not only BRICS now. There are more countries that have joined. Egypt is one of them. Ethiopia is one of them. Iran is one of them. UAE is one of them. The Saudis have been invited to join as well. We shall see how that plays out. The BRICS account for about 28% of the global economy. They are a big they are big in that space, at least that level. Of course, the G7 nations, they are still leading. They are about 43% of the global economy. Though those are the G7 nations. They account for 43% of the global economy. So they are still really the biggest. They are really the superpower, the G7 nations, when it comes to the contribution to the global economy. BRICS summit, very big for Mr. Putin. For him, he needed this, given what he has been going through, and I'm sure he's going to make use of it. Expect him to tell the world, to tell Western nations that, look, you are not on our side. There are people on our side. What you are doing is not all right. You shouldn't be sanctioning me, my country, and my people. You yourself have been instrumental in provoking Russia. Those will be his comments, folks. Those will be Putin's comments, and he's going to go on about how some people have really abused the global system, at least from his perspective. Expect him to talk about that. That should be the focus of his speech or speeches, Mr. Putin. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this BRICS summit. Mr. Putin couldn't come here last year, here in Sandton, just nearby me. He couldn't come through because of the International Criminal Court's warrant of arrest, the ICC's warrant of arrest. He couldn't come here. We are a member of the ICC, so we would have been obligated that we arrest him. In fact, we are obligated that we arrest him if he steps his foot in South Africa. So he couldn't come through. So now it is in Russia. it is in Kazan, and Mr. Putin will ensure that he is showing off, right? That he is not a pariah, that he's not alone, that he's got the partners out there. Well, not really partners, but he's got the people who want to listen to him and work with him, and people who are willing, who will buy his products, right? Whatever he exports to other nations, there are people that who are going to buy it. And there are people who do not agree with what Western nations have done. That is what Mr. Putin is going to show. So we look forward to seeing how things go at that BRICS summit. The government of national unity. 100 days after, where are we? Well, the Social Research Foundation this month did a very interesting poll. It found out that most people, 60% of South Africans, they approve of the GNU. They think that it's doing well, it's working well. They have a positive view of it. Yes, 60% of South Africans. That's how they see this government of national unity. You look at the macroeconomic outlooks from the IMF, from the World Bank, from various institutions, fund managers. There is this positive outlook on South Africa, on South Africa's economy, with, of course, the load shedding issue being drastically reduced. We are seeing interest rates being cut for the first time in 4 years or so. So we are back into the cutting cycle. In fact, next month, it's expected that the Reserve Bank is going to, cut again by 25 basis points. So we shall see if that really does transpire. So you have that. We have, business confidence bouncing back over the past months. Since this government of national unity, we have consumer confidence again bouncing back. We also have growth. I think was it first or second quarter of this year or so. Yeah, second quarter of this year, positive growth. We've seen that. So there is that momentum, right? There is that positive feel. There is that positive, a sentiment in the markets, right? In business, about this government of national unity. There is also a sense of excitement and vibe amongst those who are involved at a leadership level. The cabinet members sort of jumping in to try and these people are from the DA, the Patriotic Alliance. You could go on, the ANC people themselves, Freedom Front Plus, with their leader being the Minister of Correctional Services. I don't know why it's called that. It should be called the Minister of Prisons. Remove this thing of saying it's correctional services. It should be prisons. People need to be imprisoned if they did something wrong in our society. We are very much soft on crime. Anyway, that's not the subject for today. You can see my previous videos I've done on the crime issue. So, Social Research Foundation, they find that 60% of the people, they approve of this government of national unity. I think that is good. I've just told you that, there's this positive market sentiment. So we shall see how it goes, folks. And my honest view is that, okay, fine, we can see that. It's nice to start on a positive note, but I am interested, and I've said this in my previous, episodes. I am interested in seeing the actual change, right? First, start with the statistics. The statistics must go in a positive, desirable direction, folks. If it's unemployment, it must go down. If it's crime rates, it must go down, right? Educational outcomes, they must be positive, folks. Those are the things we need to look at. Growth needs to be sustained. We need to see positive, good growth. That an economy should grow way beyond population growth. Right now, we're underperforming. I've said this on this show. We have been underperforming our population growth. Economic growth underperforms population growth, right? And that's a problem because we produce a class of people that are becoming poorer. not positive for our country. So I want to see the statistics going in the positive direction, in the right direction, in the direction that is good for our society. That may take some time, but my point is that I'm not too excited about this because this could be short-lived as well. We saw what Ramaphosa did years back when Ramaphosa was taking over to lead the ANC and be the president of the country. We saw what that did, folks. It was short-lived. It was very short. Ramaphosa dissipated. It disappeared. It was gone. We are back to um, the bad times of dismal economic growth, crime rates, you could go on, bad business confidence, bad consumer confidence. We're back at that, folks, all right? Because really nothing was happening, right? It was just Ramaphosa with no concrete policy changes and reform by our leaders, I should say, by Ramaphosa. So we shall see this one how it goes. I'm keen to see when exactly we see that sustained change in the macroeconomic, data, right? Or various kinds of data that we collect, various metrics. I want to see at what point things go in a direction that is needed and how long it takes. Is it kept sustained or is it something that is short-lived as well? The ANC, being part of the government of national unity, it has helped it. Its support is at 45% now. Compare that to the vote it got of about 40% on May 29 election. So these numbers, by the way, going to tell you again, they are from the Social Research Foundation. So it's good. The ANC is getting support. That is fine. They're benefiting from that. Their support from 40% to 45%. Again, though I must stress, it's too early to tell. People shouldn't be too quick to just support things. The DA, it supports at 24%. Compare this to May 29 support of 22%, right? So from 22 to 24% now, the NC 40 to 45%. So these two parties being part of the government of national unity, they are benefiting from that. Again, it's too early. It is just 100 days. We need to see concrete, serious changes in South Africa. We must feel safer. We must see things working, right? We need to see good educational outcomes. We need to see people getting employed. We need to see business booming. That is what we need to see in South Africa, right? To say that they've gained more support just for being part of the government of national unity is not, really doesn't make any difference, at least at this point. We want to see concrete changes. And I've been clear numerous times here that I am going to hold this government to account in the sense that there was an ANC that ruled for decades. They've now lost world power. They lost their majority. They are governing in a new coalition. We need to see change. We need to see real change in the country. It's because it's a different political setting now, so things have to change. We need to see the real changes taking place. Nobody knows whether this GNU will last until 2029. It could collapse. I wrote in one of my recent columns recently and said that this GNU is going to face many tests, right? It's already being tested with this national health insurance that I'm opposed to. It's already being tested with the Bella Bill, right? The reform on education, that the DAs, or at least some of the elements of that law that Ramaphosa has signed into the bill that Ramaphosa has signed into law, some of the elements there, the DA is opposed to them, right? So that's a test. Ramaphosa has said some of the clauses in that act will not be implemented until they are discussed, right? In his cabinet, discussed with the parties that are interested in the matter. So those are the tests that they are facing. The ANC needs to be aware, it needs to also come to reality that they lost their majority on May 29, right? They can't just push things. Things can't be just normal. Things can't just be happening as they used to happen when it was them who were in charge of our government. Things have changed now, right? So they cannot just push through any kind of bill they want. They can't just manipulate other cabinet members. That can't happen. I have argued that the DA must push back very, very hard, right? It must not be just used along the way. It needs to stand firm and say, look, we don't agree, we disagree here, we agree here. They must be clear, folks, otherwise they are going to lose it. They shouldn't be going into 2029 having really helped the ANC to push ahead with its agenda. And most of its agenda is really a statist agenda. So the DA should not be just a helper along the way, right? Things have to change. Things have to change on very important things like Black economic empowerment, on things like NHI, on things like educational reform, dealing with unions, labor market reforms that the ANC always refuses to touch because it does not want to upset the COSATUs of the world. They're affiliates with them. They have a good relationship with COSATU. They've been friends for decades now. So the ANC doesn't want to upset the lives of COSATU and, of course, the Communist Party of South Africa that supports all kinds of statist Marxist ideologies, right? But things have to change now. With the DA in power, the IFP and others, things have to change. They cannot be the same. We cannot just carry on with NHI as it is. That can't happen, right? And other programs as well. There has to be some adjustments. And it is those adjustments that the DA should fight for. So that when 2029 comes through, the next election, they can make the case and say, look, as part of this, this is what we proposed, this is what changed. That's how they should approach it, folks. There's no other way. They need to show something when they campaign for 2029. For 2029, they must show something, right, that they did in this government. Now, it would be embarrassing that by then, things remained the same. The ANC continued to do whatever it wants to do or wanted to do. That would not be helpful to the DA. So if they are in government, then they must aim to be effective, aim to put pressure on the ANC to slow down on its statist programs, right? Adjust them. Because otherwise, the DA really would be standing on nothing, right? It will just be used by President Ramaphosa and his ANC gang. My name is Phumlani M. Majosi. Remember to get yourself a copy of my book at a bookstore near you. Its title is Lessons from Past Heroes. It's a book written to inspire. Remember to subscribe as well to this show, Phumlani M. Majosi. We'll chat soon.